Well, would it be doomsday, and do you think the Republicans can pull it off, Michelle?
I think it's possible. I think that the rise of the Tea Party movement and this incredible galvanizing of political activism among limited government conservatives is really going to change the face of Washington. And it's not just the Democrats and the White House and Joe Biden who should be girding their loins, because the fact is, and I've been to many of these Tea Parties across the country, have followed it since the movement was burgeoning in February, that Republicans are on notice as well. Republicans who have betrayed their fiscal conservative principles, voted for monstrosities like the cap and tax legislation, and there are many grassroots conservatives who are now challenging incumbent Republicans in their own districts.
Well,
that's really the untold story.
And one other point on this, Michelle, because there are those that are saying, well, there's not a dime's worth of difference between the two parties. I don't agree with that, because a lot of Republicans, especially in the House, they have fought back against cap and tax. They oppose the stimulus. They are fiercely opposing Obamacare, and they have really stood strong on their conservative principles. And I think they need to be rewarded. And as Reagan said in '75, I want a revitalized second party. I don't think it's a third party we need. He said it then. I'm saying it now.
Yeah, they will. And movement conservatives, of course, will remember the fact that the House Republicans voted unanimously against the stimulus, the Generational Theft Act. So look, obviously, there are huge differences between the parties, but I think that the Republican Party establishment has as much to be concerned about as the Democrat majority.
Now, Beckel, I can't wait to see you on TV tonight, because you're going to be there. Your brother apparently is a right-winger. In other words, there are smart members of your family. He's going to be you're going to be debating your own brother on TV tonight.
Yes, I am. And he was like you. He was dropped on his head when he was a baby, and he just got disoriented. That's all. And he just hadn't come out of it, either of you.
Well, we'll see who wins the debate. But you've got to be concerned about these poll numbers. You've got to be concerned Republican fundraising is at a record. The Gallup poll shows only Bill Clinton had a rating this low at this point in his presidency.
Well, you look at it this way. First of all, it is historically the case that the party in the White House loses seats in the following midterm election, but also there are 48 House seats that are held by Democrats, which were won by both Bush and McCain. So there's some vulnerability there. There's no question about it. But I want to go back to what Michelle said. I'm not so sure this is directed at the Democrats as it is against incumbents generally. And there will be some Republicans who will get knocked off, and there will be some Republicans who will be knocked off in primaries to be replaced by people who are so far right that they're out of the mainstream. So the Democrats may well get away here with keeping their losses down below 15 seats.
What do you think, Michelle?
Well, look, it's not anti-incumbency for anti-incumbency's sake. The theme is that people are sick and tired of the culture of corruption in Washington. They're tired of the culture of hubris and arrogance. They're tired of the culture of upending transparency. And that's the theme here. And it's the fact that you've got Nancy Pelosi, who's done nothing about unrepentant corruptocrats like Charlie Rangel in her midst, let alone herself and her own record. And that's really what's going to cause this revolution in 2010.
What do you make of?
You think that those people that make up that Tea Party group is a force in American politics enough to upset a whole lot of incumbents? And I've been to some of those things.
Bob, if you would get out of the Beltway and attend one of these instead of sitting in a TV studio and lambasting them as racists without understanding the movement, maybe you would get a clue too.
Whoa. Before you go into that, before you say that, I'd never raised that word in my life about anybody go to a Tea Party. So get your record straight before you start saying something like that.
All right, I'll go back and look.
I'll tell you somebody who did. Let me tell you somebody who did. Jimmy Carter said it, and Bill Clinton said it this morning.
The entire Democrat majority and establishment has said it. And if you haven't said it, Bob, then I apologize in advance, but I certainly haven't heard you raise your voice and object to all the people who are smearing the Tea Party folks.
I said it on Hannity's television show that I thought that using the race issue was a bad idea. It's generally a bad idea no matter how you, whether it's Obama or anybody else. I think it's bad for the country. It's bad for democracy, and it has no place in all this. And so my family was involved in the civil rights movement for years, and so was I as a very young man. And I've seen what happens when people get split down the middle of a race, and I just don't believe that it has a place in today's democracy, and I don't think it's
Then why are all these prominent Democrats bringing it up? Because, look, it's not just Carter and Clinton. It's, look at the language that has been used against people at town hall meetings. They've been compared to political terrorists, Tim McVeigh, Nazis, and everything else.
I'll repeat what I said to you on your show, which is that there's no place for racism, to talk about racism by anybody, Democrats or Republicans. And the Democrats ought to stop talking about it, and everybody else ought to stop talking about it.
Oh, but I haven't heard anyone else in the Democratic Party. Michelle, it seems to be a strategy that they've adopted.
Of course it is. Playing the race card is the first refuge of left-wing scoundrels. It always has been, and it always will be, despite the declaration of this as the age of post-racialism in America.
Well, let me ask you this question. One of the Washington Times reports today that, here we have the 2009 elections that are coming up. We have two bellwether elections that we're watching. It looks like John Corzine's going to be defeated and Christie's going to win in New Jersey. And we've got in the state of Virginia, it looks like Bob McDonnell's going to win down there. And now it seems like the Democrats have gone back to the strategy that they're going to run against Bush in New Jersey and Virginia. As Karl Rove says in this article, it's been a failed strategy. He thinks it'll fail now. What do you think? Bob?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir. That would be you.
First of all, I think that the race of Virginia is tightening up, but I think Deeds will win there. And it's a long way from certain that Corzine is going to lose in New Jersey. But let me just go back to make one point here about playing the race card again. I went down and did Harvey Gantt's campaign for the Senate against Jesse Helms. It was Jesse Helms, the uber-conservative Republican, who used the race card by putting out an ad with a black hand and a white hand grabbing for an employment document. So I don't want to listen to any of this talk. But the modern Republican Party in the South particularly built itself on taking advantage of racial animosity. It's as simple as that.
Michelle?
I recall a Republican Party that stood by the Civil Rights Movement and the Civil Rights Act when the Democrats didn't. So
they did indeed. They did indeed. You're right. I don't know what happened. It's a shame. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Well, see, now we're getting into another smear, and of course that is the smear of all Southerners as bigots and all Southerners as scary terrorist types. And I just went back and looked at what you've said about the Tea Party, Bob, and you're right. I haven't found that you've smeared them as racist, but you were the one who smeared Tea Party activists as crazed gun nuts. So, big minus for you on that. And again, I think it really behooves a lot of these analysts who think they know all about the Tea Party movement to go out and actually learn about them before they smear them.
It's surprising I would say something like that when I see a front page picture of a guy at a Tea Party with a gun strapped to his leg and a rifle over his shoulder.
A cherry-picked picture, by the way, of somebody who actually is, by the way, was following the law. Was he breaking a law?
That's not the point. The point was he was carrying guns. And
that makes him a gun nut? Guess what? There are millions of people across this country who are licensed concealed carry holders.
There's no place in America for carrying guns around a meeting with the President of the United States.
Michelle?
Again, if this is Bob's opinion of the Tea Party movement, that they are all out there just on the verge of violent extremism, then I think you and a lot of your analysts have another thing coming to you in 2010 and 2012.
Let me just add one point to this, Bob. Personally, I don't think, whether it's legal or not, that you should bring a gun to any event where there's the President of the United States, and I said so. But there is a legitimate means of protesting, and a lot of people are concerned about the very policies, including Second Amendment rights, by people on the left that would want to take them away. Whether you like their means of protest or not, it was legal.
Yeah, let me just say, I'm not doubting that there's energy on the right in America, and it's there, it's real. It's nothing to be sneezed at by the Democrats. You have to look at it. You can't look at it and with any reasonable eye and suggest to yourself that there's something that's not going on there, that it's all invented. It's not all invented, and there is an anti-government, anti-Washington sentiment loose in the land. The question is, how does that translate? How big is it? And I think for us to try to make conclusions about 2010 now, based on what we don't know what the economy is going to be like in 2010, we don't know. We will get a health care bill, and I think that will be a big advantage for the Democrats. So, and the other thing is the stimulus bill will be kicked in completely by then. We'll see whether you're all right about it being such a bad thing.
Well, we already know it's a bad thing because we quadrupled the deficit, and unemployment wasn't supposed to go above 8%, Bob.
Tripled the deficit?
Quadrupled the deficit. Obama has in 1 year quadrupled the deficit. That's correct.
How do you possibly add that up?
Because if you add up the numbers, it's going to be anywhere between $1.8 trillion and $2 trillion, and Bush's deficit last year was in the 400+ billion range.
The deficit this year would be about $1 trillion, $1.1 trillion.
No. Their own estimates are $1.8 to $2 trillion. Bob?
Well, but you're counting loans to banks and the TARP money and things like that.
No, I'm not. This is not, Bob. I'm talking about the actual deficit in real dollars accumulated by this president.
Well, I would take exception to saying that that's a quadrupling of the deficit.
Well, if it goes from less than $500 billion to $2 trillion, that's four times the amount of money.
Why would you think it was only $500 billion?
Because that's what it was under Bush.
The last
year of the Bush administration, right, which was a record.
That's correct. I'll concede your point.
And you'll buy me dinner. Can you owe me dinner?
I'll buy you dinner.